Admiral Park Do-yeon stood alone on the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn, Earth's largest warship. His hands were pressed against the cold glass as he stared at the empty space where Colony 7 Sigma used to be. 3 million people had lived there. Yesterday, families, children, workers, scientists, all of them gone in a flash of light that lasted less than a second. The Velthiri had not warned them. They had not asked them to leave. They had simply pointed their weapons at the colony and fired. 3 million human lives ended because an alien empire decided they wanted that piece of space. Do-hyun had been a soldier for 30 years. He had seen death before. But this was different. This was not war. This was murder on a scale that made his chest tight and his hands shake with cold anger. Behind him, the door opened with a soft hiss. He did not turn around. He knew from the light footsteps that it was Lieutenant Yoon Hannah, his communications officer. She was young, barely 25, but she was one of the best officers on his ship. "Admiral," she said, her voice small and uncertain. "The Galactic Council has sent their response." Do-yeon finally turned. Hannah's face was pale. Her eyes were red, and he could tell she had been crying. She was holding a datapad in her trembling hands. "Read it to me," he said. Hannah looked down at the screen. Her voice shook as she spoke. "The Galactic Council has reviewed the complaint submitted by the United Earth Government regarding the destruction of Colony 7 Sigma. After careful consideration, the Council has determined that the Velthiri hegemony acted within their rights. The human settlement was located in a zone designated for Velthiri expansion. The Council considers this matter closed. No further action will be taken." The words hung in the air like poison. For 200 years, humanity had followed every rule. When they first discovered faster-than-light travel and met alien species, they were told to be quiet, to be humble, to accept their place at the bottom of galactic society. And they did. They signed unfair treaties. They accepted insults. They smiled when alien diplomats called them primitives and laughed at their short lifespans. Humanity did all of this because they believed in peace. They believed that if they showed patience and kindness, the galaxy would eventually accept them, and now 3 million of their people were dead. And the galaxy had shrugged. Admiral Hannah whispered, "What do we do?" Do-yeon walked past her toward the command center. His steps were slow and deliberate, like a man walking toward something he had hoped he would never have to face. "Connect me to Earth Command," he said. "Priority Alpha. I need to speak with the World Council." The connection took less than a minute. On the screen appeared President Moon Gyeon, the leader of the United Earth Government. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Behind her sat the 12 members of the World Council, representing every nation and region of Earth. "Admiral Park," the president said, "we have received the Council's response." "Then you know what I am going to ask." The president nodded slowly. "The Council has already voted. The decision was unanimous." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was heavy with the weight of history. "Protocol Omega is authorized. You have command of all Earth forces, Admiral. Do what must be done." The screen went dark. Do-yeon stood still for a moment, feeling the change settle into his bones. Protocol Omega. The words meant something different now than they had when he was a young officer studying military history. Back then, it was just a theory, a last resort that everyone hoped would never be used. Now it was real. "Lieutenant Yoon," he said quietly, "open a channel. All frequencies, every human ship, station, and colony, military and civilian, everyone needs to hear this." Anna's fingers moved across her console. "Channel open, sir. You're live." Do-yeon took a breath. Across human space, billions of people stopped what they were doing. Factory workers paused their machines. Parents gathered their children. Soldiers stood at attention. Everyone listened. "This is Admiral Park Do-yeon of the United Earth Fleet. 26 hours ago, the Velthiri hegemony attacked Colony 7 Sigma without warning or provocation. 3 million of our brothers and sisters were killed. Men, women, children, all of them. Murdered because an alien empire decided our lives were worth nothing." He paused, letting the silence speak. We asked the Galactic Council for justice. They told us that the attack was acceptable. They told us that our people died because they were in the wrong place. They told us to pay money to the Velthari for the trouble of killing us. On thousands of worlds, humans listened with growing anger. Some wept, some clenched their fists. Some held their families close. For 200 years, humanity has chosen peace. We put away our weapons. We healed our world. We reached for the stars with hope in our hearts. We did everything they asked of us, and more. We were patient. We were kind. We were everything a civilized species should be. His voice dropped lower, and there was something ancient in it now. Something that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed them 100 times over. But we did not choose peace because we were weak. We chose peace because we knew what we were capable of. We knew the darkness that lived inside us. And we chose, every single day, to be better than our worst instincts. He straightened his shoulders. The Velthari have made a terrible mistake. They looked at our kindness and saw weakness. They looked at our patience and saw fear. They thought we were sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Now his voice rose, carrying across the stars. They were wrong. As of this moment, by the authority of the United Earth's government, I am declaring that humanity is at war. Not just with the Velthari, but with any species that believes our lives are worth nothing. We did not want this. We did not ask for this. But we will finish it. He looked directly into the camera, as if he could see every human watching. To my fellow humans, remember who we are. Remember what our ancestors survived? Remember that we are the children of those who refused to die, no matter what the universe threw at them. And remember this? The Velthari killed 3 million of us. They will learn that was the worst mistake in the history of their species. He gave a final nod. Admiral Park Do-yeon, signing off. Humanity, prepare for war. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, alien intelligence networks flagged the broadcast. Most of them dismissed it as emotional. Nonsense from a primitive species they did not understand. What they had just witnessed, they did not understand that the sleeping giant had opened its eyes, and they did not understand that when humanity went to war, it did not fight to win. It fought to make sure its enemies could never threaten it again. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest building ever constructed by intelligent beings. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed inside it. Its walls were made of crystal that sang softly when light passed through. Representatives from over 100 species sat in floating platforms arranged in a massive circle, each one designed to support the unique body of its occupant. At the center stood Ambassador Cho Yoonji, human representative to the council. She was small, even by human standards, barely 5 feet tall, with black hair pulled back in a simple style. She wore the plain gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Next to the towering aliens around her, she looked like a child standing among giants. Prelate Thomases, the Speaker of the Council, looked down at her from his elevated platform. He was a being made of living crystal, over 12 feet tall, with a body that shifted colors as he spoke. His voice echoed through the chamber like ringing bells. The Council has noted humanity's declaration of war, Thomases said, his tone dripping with amusement. We find it somewhat adorable. The Velthari hegemony commands 17,000 warships. Your entire fleet number is less than 500. Perhaps you would like to reconsider your position before you embarrass yourselves further. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Mirothi delegates changed color with their amusement. The Kresh clicked their mandibles in mockery. The Thornery rustled their branch-like limbs with what passed for humor among their kind. Yoonji waited for the laughter to fade. Her expression did not change. She had expected this reaction. Prelate Thomases, she said calmly, honored delegates. I have a question for you. How many of you have actually studied human history? The laughter stopped. Silence filled the chamber. I do not mean the diplomatic summaries we submitted when we first made contact. I mean our real history, the unedited version, the one we keep in our archives and teach to our children so they never forget what we are capable of becoming. She began walking slowly across the floor, her footsteps echoing in the quiet. 200 years ago, when humanity first reached the stars, we made a choice. We decided to present ourselves as peaceful explorers. We wanted to make friends. We wanted to learn. We wanted to be part of something greater than ourselves. And so we hid certain parts of our past. We thought they would frighten you. She stopped and turned to face the Velthari delegation. They were tall reptilian beings with scales of dark green and eyes like burning gold. They stared at her with contempt. We were right to hide them, Yunji continued, because the truth about humanity is not comfortable. The truth is that we are the most violent species we have ever encountered. Not you, not the Velthari, not the Thornery, who conquered 6 systems before the Council stopped them. Us. She raised her hand and activated a holographic display. Images began appearing in the air around her. Ancient images. Terrible images. This is the city of Hiroshima, 150 years before first contact. We built a weapon that could split atoms and release the energy that holds matter together. And the first thing we did with it was drop it on our own people. 80,000 dead in a single flash. We did this to ourselves. The image changed. Trenches filled with bodies. Gas clouds rolling across battlefields. Machines designed for nothing but killing. This is what we call the First World War. 20 million dead. And when it was over, we were so angry that we started another one 20 years later. 70 million dead in that one. We invented new ways to kill each other faster. Bombs that could flatten cities. Chemicals that could melt flesh. Machines that could calculate death with perfect efficiency.
Nice.
More images. Mushroom clouds. Missiles. Underground bunkers filled with weapons. After our Second Great War, we built enough nuclear weapons to destroy our entire planet. Not once. Many times over. And we pointed them at each other for 50 years, knowing that at any moment, we could end all life on Earth. We lived with that knowledge every single day. And we still could not stop making more weapons. Yunji turned off the display. The chamber was completely silent now. Several delegates had changed color or posture in ways that suggested deep discomfort. We have committed genocide against our own kind. We have enslaved millions of our brothers and sisters. We have tortured, raped, and murdered on scales that would make the Velthari look gentle. We have done things so terrible that we cannot even speak of them without feeling shame. She walked toward Prelate Thomas's, stopping directly beneath his towering form. Then we stopped. We looked at ourselves and saw monsters. And we decided, as a species, that we did not want to be monsters anymore. We put away our weapons. We healed our world. We built a society based on cooperation instead of conquest. We reached for the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers. Her voice softened, but it carried through the silent chamber like a blade. You have spent 200 years laughing at us, calling us primitives, treating us like amusing pets. You never once asked yourselves why a species capable of such violence had chosen peace. You never wondered what we were hiding. You never thought about what might happen if someone gave us a reason to remember what we are. She turned to face the Velthari delegation again. The Velthari just killed 3 million of our people. 3 million innocent men, women, and children. And you, honored council, told us that their deaths were acceptable. For the first time, emotion crept into her voice. Not anger. Something colder. You've woken something that we spent centuries trying to put to sleep. You have reminded us of the darkness inside us. And now you will see what humanity looks like when it stops choosing to be kind. She began walking toward the exit. I came here today not to negotiate, not to plead, not to ask for justice. I came to give you a warning. What is coming is not a war. It is a lesson. And when it is over, the galaxy will never again make the mistake of thinking that human kindness means human weakness. She reached the door and stopped. I suggest you remember what I have told you, because my people will not stop until the Velthari understand the cost of what they have done. And if anyone tries to help them, they will learn that lesson too. The door closed behind her, In the great chamber of the Galactic Council, 100 species sat in silence. For the first time in 3,000 years, they were afraid. Not of fleets. Not of weapons. They were afraid of a small species. From a small planet that had just reminded them why the universe should fear, those who choose peace over war, because such beings know exactly what war truly means. General. Beak Ji-woo had not slept in 6 days. Her eyes were red, and her hands shook slightly as she stood in the war room of the Hammer of Soul, Earth's mobile command station. Around her, dozens of screens showed information that would have seemed impossible just 1 month ago. Humanity was transforming. Every factory on Earth had stopped making civilian goods. Every shipyard in the solar system was building warships. Every scientist, every engineer, every worker with useful skills had been assigned to the war effort. It was as if someone had flipped a switch and turned the entire human species into a single machine with one purpose. Captain Shin, Taiwan, her aide, approached with a datapad. He was a young man with a calm face, but his voice carried a note of something like awe. Production update, General. Luna shipyards are now completing 15 warships per day. Mars facilities will be online within the week. That will add another 20 per day. Gi-woo nodded but did not smile. Still not enough. The Velthari have 17,000 ships. At this rate, it will take us months to match their numbers. General, Taiwan said carefully, there is something else you need to know. The archives have been opened. Ji-woo's head turned sharply. The archives were humanity's darkest secret. When the species united under one government 2 centuries ago, they had gathered all the weapons of the old wars and sealed them away. Nuclear weapons, biological agents, chemical compounds, technologies designed for nothing but destruction on the largest possible scale. The idea was that these things would never be used again. Which archives? She asked. All of them. Every sealed facility on Earth and in the colonies. The World Council authorized it this morning. Gi-woo closed her eyes. She had hoped this day would never come. But part of her, a dark part she usually tried to ignore, felt something else. Relief. The pretending was over. Humanity could finally stop hiding what it really was. What are they building? Taiwan scrolled through his datapad. The old nuclear designs are being updated with modern technology. The new warheads will be 1,000 times more powerful than the ones we used to have. They are also restarting the bioweapon programs. And there are teams working on something called Gray Swarm. Gray Swarm, Ji-woo repeated. She knew that name. It was a theoretical weapon, designed but never built. Self-replicating nanomachines that could consume any matter and turn it into more of themselves. Release them on a planet, and within days, there would be nothing left but gray dust and trillions of tiny machines waiting for their next target. There is one more thing, Taiwan said. His voice dropped lower. Project Prometheus has been activated. Now Ji-woo felt real fear. Prometheus was not a weapon. It was an artificial intelligence designed before first contact, created to fight a war of extinction. It had no emotions, no mercy, no limits. It existed for one purpose only, to ensure humanity's survival by any means necessary. When humanity chose peace, Prometheus was shut down and buried in a facility deep beneath the Antarctic ice.
Who authorized that?
Ji-woo demanded. The World Council. Unanimous vote. Taiwan swallowed hard. General Prometheus has been running for 3 days now. It has already redesigned our entire fleet. The new ships are faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything we could have created ourselves. It has invented weapons that did not exist last week. It is building things we do not have names for. Ji-woo walked to the main display. The map showed human space, a small cluster of stars in a galaxy that contained billions. But as she watched, new icons appeared. Manufacturing stations coming online. Research facilities opening. Mining operations beginning on planets that had been ignored for decades. Humanity was not just preparing for war. It was transforming into something new. Something terrible, far away, on the Velthari homeworld of Vesk Prime. Supreme Commander Krethos reviewed reports from his intelligence officers, with growing irritation. The humans were making noise, yes. They were building ships, but what could they possibly do? The Velthari had been conquering species for 10,000 years. Their warriors were the finest in the galaxy. Their technology was proven in 100 wars. These humans were nothing. Primitive apes from a small planet playing with toys they did not understand. "Commander," one of his officers said, "we have new intelligence from our spies in human space. Tell me, they're producing ships at an unusual rate. Our estimates suggest they will have over 1,000 vessels within 2 months." Krithos laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. 1,000 ships against 17,000? Let them build their little fleet. When we crush them, we will have barely lost a single warrior. But the officer did not laugh. He looked troubled. "Commander, there is something else. The ships they are building do not match any known designs. Our analysts cannot determine how they are powered or what weapons they carry. The specifications seem ... wrong. Wrong how? Impossible, Commander. According to our analysis, these ships should not be able to function. The power requirements alone would require technology that does not exist." Krethos waved his clawed hand dismissively. "Your analysts are wrong. The humans are bluffing. They are trying to frighten us with tricks. Prepare the main fleet. We will advance on their colonies and crush them before they can become a nuisance." The officer bowed and left. But as he walked down the corridor, he thought about what he had seen in the reports. He thought about the ships that should not exist. He thought about the weapons that violated known physics. And for the first time in his life, he wondered if his species had made a terrible mistake. Back on the Hammer of Soul, General Beek Ji-woo received a message from Admiral Park Do-yoon. His face appeared on her screen, and she saw that he looked older than he had a week ago. "War-aged people quickly. General," he said. "How are the preparations? Ahead of schedule? Prometheus is more efficient than we expected. We will be ready before the Velthari reach our outer colonies." Do-yoon nodded slowly. "Good, because I have received a message from the Galactic Council. They are demanding that we stand down. They say that if we do not surrender immediately, they will authorize other species to join the Velthari in their attack on us." Ji-woo felt a cold smile form on her face. "Do they understand what they are threatening?" "No, they still think we are what we were pretending to be." Do-yoon paused. "But they will learn. When the Velthari fleet arrives at Kepler 442, they will learn what happens when humanity stops being nice. And the Council. They will learn too." Do-yoon's eyes were hard. "One way or another, the galaxy will understand that they should have left us alone. That they should never, ever have hurt our children." The connection ended. General Beek Ji-woo turned back to her screens where the numbers climbed higher every second. Ships built, weapons assembled, soldiers trained. Humanity was waking up, and the galaxy was about to discover that the peaceful explorers they had mocked for 2 centuries were really the descendants of the most dangerous predators their small blue planet had ever produced. The wolves had remembered how to hunt. The Velthari Armada arrived at the Kepler 442, a system like a wave of death rolling across the stars. 8,000 warships, each one proven in battle against a dozen species, moved in perfect formation toward the human defensive line. Supreme Commander Krithos stood on the bridge of his flagship, Eternal Conquest, watching his prey with hungry eyes. The human fleet was pitiful. 300 ships, arranged in a simple defensive line in front of their colony worlds. Krethos could not even see them properly on his tactical display. They were just tiny dots waiting to be crushed. "Signal the fleet," he commanded. "Standard attack formation. I want this finished within the hour." His officers moved to obey. Around the Eternal Conquest, thousands of Velthari ships began spreading out into their battle positions. They had done this many times before. The result was always the same. A few minutes of fighting, followed by the complete destruction of their enemies. On the other side of the battlefield, Admiral Kang Sujin stood on the bridge of the Wrath of Terra. She was a small woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Behind her, her crew worked in complete silence. There was no fear in this ship. only cold determination. Admiral Commander Ojimin reported the Velthari fleet is entering weapons range. They are beginning their attack approach. Sujin nodded. On her display, she could see every Velthari ship. She could see their formation, their speed, their power levels. She knew exactly what they were going to do, because Prometheus had calculated it 3 days ago. The AI had run over 10 million simulations. It knew how the Velthari fought. It knew their tactics, their weaknesses, their blind spots. "Begin broadcast," she said calmly. Across the human fleet, speakers came to life. But instead of orders or battle cries, there was only music. An old piece from Earth, written centuries ago by a man named Holst. It was called Mars, the bringer of war. The sounds of drums and brass filled every human ship as the fleet began to move. The Velthari did not understand the music. They did not understand why the tiny human ships were accelerating directly toward them instead of trying to run. They did not understand why their targeting systems were suddenly having trouble locking onto the human vessels, and then the killing began. The Wrath of Terra fired first. Its main weapon was something new, something that should not have existed. A beam of focused antimatter, guided by Prometheus's calculations, struck the lead Velthari battleship directly in its reactor core. The ship did not explode. It simply vanished, converted into energy in a single instant, before the Velthari could react. 300 human ships fired at once. They did not fire randomly. Each shot was perfectly calculated. Each target was precisely chosen. In the first 30 seconds of battle, 200 Velthari ships died. Krethos stared at his display in disbelief. This was impossible. The humans did not have weapons like this. They did not have ships that could move like this. They were primitives. They were nothing. Return fire. He screamed. All ships concentrate fire on the human fleet. The Velthari ships obeyed. Thousands of weapons fired at once, filling space with deadly energy. But the human ships were not where they were supposed to be. They danced through the barrage like ghosts, twisting and turning in ways that seemed to defy physics. Prometheus was guiding every ship, making thousands of calculations every second. Keeping its fleet one step ahead of death, Commander Ojimin watched the battle data scroll across his screen. Enemy losses now exceed 500 ships. We have lost 2 vessels. 2, Sujin repeated softly. Continue the attack. Focus on their command ships. The human fleet moved like a single organism, flowing through the Velthari formation and leaving destruction in its wake. The Velthari tried to regroup, tried to coordinate their fire, tried to use their superior numbers, but nothing worked. The humans seemed to know what they would do before they did it. Their ships appeared where they should not be, fired weapons that should not exist, destroyed vessels that should have been invincible. On the eternal conquest, Krethos watched his fleet die. 3,000 ships gone. 4,000. 5,000. The humans had lost fewer than 50. Commander, one of his officers said, his voice shaking, we must retreat. We cannot win this battle. Krethos wanted to refuse. He wanted to fight until the last ship. But he was not a fool. Whatever the humans had become, it was something his fleet could not defeat. Signal all surviving ships, he said, the words tasting like poison. Full retreat. Maximum speed. The Velthari fleet turned and ran, but the humans did not let them escape easily. As the surviving ships fled, human vessels pursued them, picking off the slowest and weakest. By the time the Velthari crossed the system boundary, only 600 ships remained from a fleet of 8,000. Admiral Kong Sujin watched them go. Her face showed no joy, no satisfaction, only exhaustion. Let them run, she said. Let them tell everyone what happened here. The survivors did tell. They told of human ships that moved like demons. They told of weapons that erased matter from existence. They told of a fleet that fought with perfect coordination, as if guided by a single mind that could see the future. They told of the silence on human communications, the complete absence of fear or anger or any emotion at all, just cold, efficient death. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had laughed at humanity's declaration of war stopped laughing. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, and for the first time, there was fear in the Great Chamber. Prelate Thos's crystal body flickered with agitation as he addressed the assembly. This is a serious situation. The Velthri have lost over 90% of their attack fleet. Our projections were completely wrong. Wrong? The Mirathi delegate's color had shifted to a sick gray. Prelate, I have analyzed the battle data. What happened at Kepler 442 should be impossible. Those human ships violated at least 17 known principles of physics. Their weapons exceed our theoretical maximum output by a factor of 50. Whatever they have become, it is not something we understand. Thomas has demanded, they were primitives 6 months ago. No species develops this fast. It takes centuries to advance this much. Perhaps, another delegate said slowly, they were never primitives. Perhaps they were hiding their true capabilities. Perhaps they were waiting for something. The chamber fell silent as the delegates considered this possibility. They thought about the images Ambassador Choyunji had shown them. The bombs, the wars, the weapons capable of destroying planets. They thought about her warning. They thought about what it meant if everything she said was true. Back at Kepler 442, Admiral Sujin received a message from Admiral Park Do-yan. His face appeared on her screen, and she saw something in his eyes that might have been pride or might have been sorrow. Well done, Admiral, he said. The Velthri will not forget this day. No, she agreed, but this is just the beginning. They will come back with more ships. And there are other species who might join them. Let them come. Do-yan's voice was flat. Prometheus has already planned for every possibility. We have weapons they cannot imagine and strategies they cannot counter. This war will end only one way. And what way is that, Admiral? Do-yan was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his words were heavy with the weight of what they meant. The way all human wars end, with the complete and absolute defeat of our enemies. We will not stop until the Velthri can never threaten us again. And if the galaxy tries to stop us, they will learn the same lesson. He paused. God help them all, because we certainly will not. The screen went dark. Admiral Kang Sujin turned to look at the battlefield where thousands of Velthri ships drifted as wreckage. She thought about the lives that had been lost on both sides. She thought about the war that was just beginning, and she wondered if humanity would still recognize itself when this was over. 1 year had passed since the massacre at Colony 7 Sigma. 1 year since humanity declared war. 1 year since the galaxy learned what the small species from the small blue planet was truly capable of. The Velthri hegemony no longer existed. Admiral Park Do-yan stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn, just as he had on the day it all began. But now, his fleet numbered over 3,000 ships. Behind him, the stars were quiet. The war was over. The Velthri had fought hard. After their defeat at Kepler 442, they had gathered every ship they had and launched a second attack. Then a third. Each time, humanity crushed them. By the 6th month, the Velthri fleet was gone. By the 8th month, human ships controlled every system the Velthri had ever claimed. But humanity did not destroy them. That was not the human way. Instead, every Velthri weapon was taken away. Every warship was dismantled. Every military facility was demolished. The Velthri people themselves were moved to a cluster of planets far from the main trade routes, where they could live in peace but never threaten anyone again. It was mercy. Cold, calculated mercy. The kind of mercy that came from a species that understood war too well to enjoy it. Lieutenant Yoon Hana, now a commander, approached the admiral. She had aged in the past year. They all had, or did that to people. Sir, we have arrived at Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council is ready to receive us. Do-yan nodded slowly. Good. It is time they understood how things will be from now on. The human fleet took up positions around the Council's capital world. Not threatening, just present. Reminder of what humanity could do if it chose to. Ambassador Cho. Yoonji walked into the great chamber of the Galactic Council for the second time. But everything was different now. The last time, the delegates had laughed at her. Now they watched her in complete silence. Several species had sent their highest leaders, beings who normally never left their homeworlds. They were afraid, and they had good reason to be. Yunji walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the quiet. She looked up at Prelate Thomas's, whose crystal body had dimmed significantly since their last meeting. 1 year ago, she began, I stood in this chamber and warned you. I told you what humanity was. I told you what we were capable of.
I told
You what would happen if you forced us to remember the darkness inside us. She paused, letting the silence stretch. You did not listen. The Velthari attacked our colonies. It killed millions more of our people. Other species sent them weapons and supplies, thinking they could help defeat us. She turned to look at the Thornery delegation, then the Kresh. Both groups looked away. You thought we were weak. You thought we would fail. Her voice hardened. You were wrong. She walked slowly around the chamber, meeting eyes with delegate after delegate. The Velthari are gone as a military power. They will never threaten anyone again. The species who helped them have been identified and noted. We have not punished them yet. You're waiting to see if they have learned their lesson. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. I did not come here to threaten you. Threats are for the weak, and humanity is not weak. I came to tell you how things will be from now on. She returned to the center of the chamber and turned to face Prelate Thomas's. First, humanity will be a full member of this council with equal voting rights. Not because you want to give us this, but because you cannot stop us from taking it. Thomas's nodded weakly. Agreed. Second, any attack on human civilians anywhere in the galaxy will be considered an act of war against our entire species. We will respond with everything we have. There will be no warnings, no negotiations, no second chances. Agreed? Third, the Galactic Council will establish new laws against genocide and mass murder. Any species that commits such acts will face consequences, not just sanctions or fines, real consequences. A murmur ran through the chamber, but no one objected. Fourth, humanity reserves the right to intervene anywhere in the galaxy where we see innocent people being slaughtered. We will not stand by and watch while the strong prey on the weak. Never again. Prelate Thomas's leaned forward, and if we refuse these terms, Yunji smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Prelate, look outside your window. Count our ships. Think about what happened to the Velthari, then ask yourself if you really want to know the answer to that question. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, the delegations began signaling their acceptance. There was no debate, no argument, no negotiation. They simply accepted. Youngji nodded. Good. Then I have one more thing to say, and then I will leave you to think about everything that has happened. She straightened her shoulders and spoke clearly so every being in the chamber could hear. 200 years ago, humanity chose peace. We put away our weapons and tried to be good neighbors. We hoped that if we showed kindness, the galaxy would show kindness in return. We were naive. We learned that lesson the hard way. Her voice softened slightly. But we have not abandoned peace. We do not want to conquer you. We do not want to rule you. We do not want to destroy you. All we ever wanted was to be left alone to live our lives and raise our children in safety. She looked around the chamber one last time. The war is over. The Velthari have been dealt with. We hope that we will never have to fight like this again. We hope that this council will be wiser in the future. That you will think twice before allowing one of your members to murder innocent people. She began walking toward the exit. But if you test us again, if you hurt our people again, we will respond. Not with anger, not with cruelty. We will respond with the cold, efficient destruction that is the birthright of every human being. We are the children of predators. We carry the memory of 1,000 wars in our blood. And when we are pushed, we push back harder than anyone can imagine. She stopped at the door and turned back. Ow. So please, for your sake and ours, do not push us. Let us be peaceful. Let us be kind. Let us be the gentle explorers we want to be. Because the alternative is something none of us want to see. She left the chamber. Behind her, 100 species sat in silence, contemplating the lesson they had learned. A lesson about a small species from a small planet that had seemed so harmless, so friendly, so easy to ignore. They had learned that humanity did not become peaceful because they could not fight. They became peaceful because they were terrified of what they were when they did fight. They had looked into the abyss of their own nature and chosen to walk away from it. The galaxy had dragged them back to that abyss, and now everyone knew what lived inside it. Later historians would write about this moment. They would call it the end of the old order and the beginning of a new age. They would debate whether humanity had been right to show such strength, whether their mercy to the Velthari was genuine or calculated, whether the galaxy was safer now or more dangerous. But one thing was never debated. One truth was accepted by every species that had witnessed the war. Humanity was no longer the bottom of the hierarchy. They were no longer primitives to be mocked and ignored. They were something else now, something ancient, something dangerous, something that the universe itself seemed to fear. And if you were wise, very wise, you left them alone. Because when humanity declared war, it was not a threat. It was not a negotiation. It was not a beginning. It was a final call, a last warning. A moment of grace before something terrible awakened. And the galaxy had learned at a cost of millions of lives to answer that call with silence and respect. Some lessons, after all, only need to be taught once.